Welcome to the Making of Me podcast. Today's guest is Devorah Brinckerhoff, a professional artist and creator of Soul Portrait, a unique creative or healing process that helps people transform from trauma and reconnect with their authentic self. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Devorah.
Thanks, Aro. I'm happy to be here.
Devorah, what challenge shaped you to who you are today?
Lots of different challenges along the way. I think that I resisted even acknowledging challenges for what they were for a very long time until they got the better of me and I couldn't keep turning away from them. And the bigger they got, the more I met myself. So if we're going to talk about the biggest challenge, that would be when I was dealing with my own sexual abuse history that I did not know about until I was pregnant. And then when my children were very little, my daughter would have been 4 and my son would have been a baby, 16, 18 months old. And we realized that they were also being abused by a totally different person on a different part of the country. That was challenging. And as we learned how to move them through that trauma, it only got more difficult because sexual abuse is such a taboo topic. And when it comes to letting people know that that's what's going on and making decisions to protect those kids, which included boundaries and not just shoving it under the rug where it was, the whole family blew up. And my husband and I lost every family member in the course of 24 hours. That loss was really what brought me to my knees. And it highlighted that creating artwork had always been a way for me to connect with the truth of who I really was underneath all the societal, cultural, familial, socioeconomical conditioning that I had grown up with.
Wow, that was really a whole lot to actually be at that particular point. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now, and a whole lot of emotion is running through me. I didn't even know what my disposition would have been if I was to be at that particular crossroad. It's really a whole lot. I'm glad to be able to kind of embrace art and use it as a tool for discovering yourself and just expressing yourself that particular moment. And that was a whole lot. Walk us through the transformation from your gallery art to healers. What sign that this work was meant for you?
Well, it took me a long time to catch up to myself.
Yeah.
So it had always been helping me. And I believed that, getting in galleries and having shows and selling work was kind of it. And the most important thing, but I really missed the mark. The most important thing was the process of making it and who we become in that process. So creativity really, for me, and I think could be for so many people, the way share to our own divinity. And how we connect with that is as individual as you are. And so, right, your creativity is making this podcast, and maybe it's making a beautiful dinner or poem or music or dance or movement of any kind. And for me, it was drawing and painting and finding another way to tell my story without words, because words always fell short. I always feel like they're falling short. And I want the work that I make to speak not just for me, but for the viewer. So when people resonate with my work, something in them is coming alive. And that's so beautiful. I can create something with something in mind, but however somebody responds to it is equally, if not more important. And that is creativity, it's divinity, it's energy in motion, it's connection, it's belonging, it's tribe. And I love that. And so if I'm drawing or encouraging someone else to draw, and it doesn't matter what we make, if you think back and go to when you were, I don't know, 3 or 4 and you were coloring or drawing, you loved it because you made it. Even if it's a mud pie or a hole in the ground. Like, I loved digging holes and making forts out of pine cones or pine needles or debris. Like, it didn't matter. My imagination was alive, and that's creativity. So I'm more like, it's less about the artwork and more about where and how do you come alive? What makes you feel joy and lose track of time? And that to me is your creativity speaking.
Wow, that was really amazing, especially when you make reference of it that Yeah, what's something you get to do that make you lose track of time? And I think a whole lot of these most times is usually realized during childhood, and once after childhood, a whole lot of persons lost a sense of just being themselves, engrossing in their work. So just hearing it from you, it really speaks volume. I'm just admiring the process to say, wow,
It's kind of a guidepost, right? When you lose
yeah,
track of time, do more of that if you can.
yeah, thank you. So what keep people trapped in their own stories, and how does creativities help unlock freedom?
Well, I mean, people get trapped in their own stories all the time, and there's no one reason why. It's what we believe about ourselves. When we were going through this process with our kids, and when we started talking about it, we were sued by our parents, and I was excommunicated from my family, and essentially my husband was too. And so I didn't know what to do with that loss. And I ended up ripping up the legal documents. First, we had to like get a lawyer and do all of these things and spend all this money. And it didn't go anywhere, but emotionally, it went everywhere. And the message that I received was I wasn't good enough. I was totally unlovable and I was being rejected in such a complete, all encompassing way that I didn't know how to recover who I really was. But in ripping up those letters, right? So the letters had meaning of my failure or my lack of worth. But then the question comes up, is that true? Like, is that actually true? And so now the people that I work with are dealing with the messages, how they interpreted the experience. So whether they're dealing with a child who committed suicide, whether they've come back from fighting in a war, whether they've been sold by their parents into human or sex trafficking, whether like the big stuff, even adoption, or how do we perceive or internalize those experiences? That's what keeps us trapped. When we take on the blame or believe it's our fault or feel the shame or the guilt or the judgment or the contraction of lived experience. So, underneath it all, who are we? We all learn who to become from a very young age. But if you strip away all of those messages, I just do it in the form of using actual materials from people's lives. If you strip that away, you're kind of faced with your own amazingness because underneath it all, you're amazing. Underneath it all, you're whole. Underneath it all, you're already this beautiful light being that you just, of course, forgot because all of these lived experiences got piled on top. So let's take the first one off and then the second one off and really ask ourselves, well, who are we without this belief? Who am I without this experience? The experience helps us grow, but it doesn't have to become who we think we are. And
Hmm.
if it does, we're wrong. Like we're just wrong.
Yeah, the experience help us grow, but it shouldn't define us. Going through history, a whole lot of persons who have done outstanding things, and I'm actually more like also very amazing watching them doing things or being themselves. Most times you discover that a whole lot of them have gone through a whole lot of things during the course of their life. And the reason why they could actually be able to survive that is the fact that, yeah, they heal from it. They accept it. They accept the blame and everything. They heal from it. And then there was now room for them to actually get to manifest who they really are. Because you can't manifest who you are when you are still more like still feeling ashamed or being in your skin over the past, over everything. And except you actually accept it, heal from it. Yes, I know I live this. I know it went actually went this particular way, but that doesn't define me, right?
Yeah.
And you just seeing it from that particular end, it's really really amazing to see that a whole lot could be come out from things from a lot of experience that might not that was not right from the head start. Yeah,
Well, and it gives us a chance to go back and nurture what wasn't nurtured in the experience in the past. And so, it's like parts work and it's like parenting yourself, and it's so much more because when you're holding the materials of your life, if you have them, because you can get them off the internet or on from the library or something that, because I've worked with people who were in the foster system and
yeah,
didn't have any records, didn't have anything to use. And so they used other material to represent the experience as a tangible way to say, I'm holding this experience. I'm not reliving the experience. I'm witnessing the experience so I can really acknowledge it, but more than that, accept it. And then it naturally dissolves. It's not screaming for our attention anymore. We give it our attention so that we can release it and then make room for who we want to be. Just like what you're saying. It's like
Yeah.
if we are so full of the past, we can't possibly bring in the future that we want.
True.
So,
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So how does a soul portrait differ from traditional therapy in processing trauma?
so for me at least, not being a therapist, but having worked with a ton of therapists
Yeah,
and also marrying one, I really realized that words only got me so far, and that being in my head actually didn't touch lived experience, which lives in our body. And so when I could hold in my heart lived experience rather than in my mind, I could actually do something with it. I could actually really, it's that acknowledgement piece again. I couldn't find words for everything that I had experienced, but if I let the feelings run through me, and so the conflict was if I can't articulate it, then I'm stuck, then I can't move, then I can't heal, then I haven't done my work. And that just isn't true. And so ripping things up is a somatic experience. It lets our body release energy that is stuck behind our rib or back behind our left ear or wherever in your lower back, in behind your knee, like wherever experiences get stuck inside of you, and you'll know where it is. It's a body experience. And the body wants to be met with the language of the body, which to me is creativity, whatever that is, and go into that place where your mind quiets and your hands get busy, whether you're gardening or cleaning or cooking or dancing or whatever it is. There's a connection to something bigger than you, God, source, universe, cosmos. And there's a calming quality to that that says, I'm reaching the place that words can't get to. And I ran into so many therapists who had so many judgments and so many biases. I don't know if I'm saying that word right. Biases,
yeah,
that I felt like I couldn't say the words without having judgment, or that then I felt guilty about that I'd done something wrong. So there were so many layers that I could run up against shame or judgment or becoming smaller again. And so with creativity in the way that I work with it and teach it is that you're enough to be your own witness. If you want to share your story with me, I'm more than happy to hold that. And I've never met a person or their story that I felt deserved anything but compassion and love. And I have listened to some horrific stories about violence and sexual violence and domestic violence and causing harm and taking lives and feeling like they could never forgive themselves. And I'm just somebody to witness that and say, no matter what, you are worthy and you are lovable. And lived experience takes us to places that are so dark. But that doesn't mean that you're dark. It doesn't mean that you're all darkness. And I actually think we're mostly light, but we've forgotten. And depending on the messages we're getting and the community that we're in, is how we often feel about ourselves. And so if I'm being mirrored back that I'm bad and wrong, then I'm going to get quieter. If I can witness myself with love and compassion, I'm going to unfurl. I'm going to become more of my light. It's really nice to do that in community. It's really nice to have people rooting you on. But if they're not, we are capable of meeting ourselves. And that is an empowering knowing, right? Like you're perfectly capable of getting there on your own, of self sourcing, of self witnessing, of self loving. I feel like
yeah.
we need, yeah.
Amazing. I mean, so many people think that they aren't creative enough for this work. How do you help them overcome the resistance?
Well, resistance is everywhere, and resistance is whenever we try something new. So I welcome the resistance and I encourage other people to welcome that resistance. And when we do, we find out we're so much bigger and stronger than resistance or than the experience that people are working through. And the other piece about creativity is that we're all creative and it doesn't matter. You don't have to have any skills. Most people if we have a couple fingers, can rip up paper and can glue paper down and can write and can draw stick figures and smear paint around with their fingers or a brush. No skills needed, really. Any 3 and 4-year-old can and have done this process with no trouble. So, really, it's more about witnessing yourself. It's letting those stories come to the surface and be acknowledged and accepted so that we can hear our greater wisdom, so we can follow our intuition, which is where everything is. It brings us into our heart out of our head, right?
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. So how can someone begin using creativity or for healing on their own?
Well, like I suggest, I have a couple of free exercises. One of them, if they're interested, is under soulportrait.art backslash inner voice. And it's just an exercise to get in touch with your own creativity. You basically draw a circle and write and words that are coming to mind, and then you're directed to do a couple of other things to get at what the universe, God source is asking you to pay attention to within yourself, because you already know, you're already tapped in. So I ask people, another thing that I love to do are blind contour drawings. And those are drawings where you're not looking at the paper and you don't take your hand pencil marker off the paper so it's one continuous line. Well, you look at yourself and draw what you see, all of your features, the shape of your head, your ears, your shirt, your shoulder, and it doesn't look anything like you. And then I ask, and then I ask people to rip it up. And they usually struggle with that, and I'm like, oh, that's just because, and we do it in 30 seconds, right? Like they can do 100 more and keep whatever ones they want, but it's just the exercise of you're more than this drawing, you're more than this experience, you're more than how you think you look, you're just more. So exercises to doodle while you're on the phone or on hold or waiting in a doctor's office, or ways to tap in and get quiet, because our minds are so crazy. If we're drawing, then we can listen to our heart a little bit more easily.
Wow, this is really, really amazing. And just hearing you make it so big, I just speak a whole lot of volume. So how do your personal journey influence the way you guide others through soul portrait?
Well, my personal journey just taught me not to judge anyone. I had been judging myself and others for so many years, and it brought me nothing but misery. And I was locked in the prison of what's good and what's bad. And really, underneath it all, I felt like I was the worst human in the world. And I think so many of us feel that way, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And so that guided me as I got closer to feeling love and compassion for myself. There was so much relief in accepting every single thing that I had done, every single belief that somebody else had about me. It's okay. Like they can have that belief and I can have my own. And so that to sit with people in that space who are recovering from the loss their child who committed suicide, and they feel so much guilt and they have such a hard time like moving, like how do they comprehend anything outside of feeling responsible? And so as they go back and revisit materials of their journey of parenting this child, more often than not, in fact, I've never had a parent who said, I was really a horrible, like I tried my best to belittle and make my child feel so small. Every parent that I've talked to, or caregiver or grandparent, knows that they did absolutely the best they could with what they had. And so it softens the guilt and it allows the grief of the loss to have a place to land, because we're so ready to blame ourselves. That was kind of a long winded way to say that compassion. My own journey taught me humility and compassion for what we all go through and how challenging and messy our lived experiences can be. And that I'm a champion for connecting with what's bigger than any of that, always.
Amazing, amazing. This is really, really amazing. It's the fact that once one has actually more like lived through an experience, you shall know that. I think there was this particular reality that get done to actually speak volumes. So yeah, any of those things can happen to us. It make you realize too to be able to easily forgive and being humble and Yeah, it's really a whole lot, and your story just speak a whole lot. And the fact that despite this particular thing, you'll be able to heal from it and carve out a purpose through it. It's really, really amazing and a very lovely way of saying through every difficulty that anyone is going through now. Yeah, that definitely there's a higher purpose for everyone, even if it might be a trauma, it might be a particular situation, it might be something that isn't felt like they're growing up or one thing or other. It just shows that there can be a greater purpose compared to that particular thing if only we accept the fact that and get healed from this particular thing. And it's really amazing hearing your story.
I think the thing that I really want to remind people is that we have to forgive ourselves first. And we don't even know what forgiveness is or anything that needs to be forgiven when we're just teeny tiny little beings. And so when people recognize that that forgiveness starts with them and that there are things like I think I was listening to another episode that you did, and she had really offered up everything to God and however you want to do it, right? We're not perfect, but
Mm.
we can forgive ourselves. And once we start practicing that, then we worry less about what other people are doing.
Yeah, amazing. So there are from our audience who want to reach out to you, who want to learn more from you, and who want to learn how to do the art from you too, and how can they actually reach out to you, and where's the best platform to do this?
Any platform that people are on already, I'm probably there. So TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and I have a website. And so my name, Devorah Brinckerhoff or Soul Portraits .art, they'll likely find me there. So anybody
Uh,
can reach out to me that way.
what will be your final words? Anyone out there who is struggling through a particular trauma, who is still going through a lot, who haven't forgive themselves, who are still holding back?
That their mind is playing tricks on them and that they are so much more than what their mind is telling them, especially people who are in that suicidal place. Our mind really, really can hook in. And so the thing that I want people to know is that there's so much more than how they're feeling in the moment, and that one one tiny thought that says you're worth it, you're already enough, you have everything you need inside of you. Breathe. Just keep breathing and start drawing. I mean, for me, I'm like, start drawing. But for whatever it is for you, just start pointing in that direction of following your heart a little bit more. The suffering is so painful.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Deborah. Oh, thanks for sharing your stories and your guidance. If this conversation inspired you, you can access our free creative healing exercise by visiting the link that's going to be on the show notes, also portrait.art/inner voice. It's really a pleasure having you on the show, Deborah, and thank you for your stories.
Thanks, Aro. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.